The 2021 NBA free agency class could have been one of the best ever, but with people like Giannis, Paul George, AD, LeBron and Rudy Gobert signing extensions last off-season, it's taken a lot of the big names off the market, but there's still some quality players out there becoming free agents this off-season. So in this video, we're going to do a list from 10 to 1, 10 of the best players out there this off-season to get. Number 10, we got Dennis Schroder. He's 27 years old, point guard obviously with the Lakers, an unrestricted free agent. And this season's had an up and down season, averaging 15.5 points per game and 5.8 assists per game on 33.5% shooting from 3. Now Schroder turned down the Lakers' $84 million extension a few months ago, and as a Laker fan myself, watching him in most games, I don't think he's worth much more than $84 million. I think he thinks he can get way more. Like, if he's going to turn down money like that, he must think he can get 4 years, $100 million, which I don't think he's worth. Be interesting to see if the Lakers pay that. The Lakers are in a sticky situation with Schroder because they lose him, they don't get the cap space of a $16 million contract, so they might have to pay him, but I don't think he's worth much more than $84 million. Other teams linked with Dennis Schroder, the Knicks have been heavily linked with him, and I think the Raptors could be a team for him if Kyle Lowry leaves there, and of course there's a good chance he could re-sign with the Lakers. At number 9 we got another Laker, Andre Drummond, 27 years old as well, so in the prime of his career, and this season he's averaged 15.6 points per game and 12 boards. Now Drummond has recently signed the Lakers after getting bought up by the Cavaliers, and he's had an up and down Laker career so far. That's not easy because the Lakers, they've had so much injuries, so many players in and out from the lineup. AD just come back, so it's easy to play with AD in the front court, and he's had up and down start with the Lakers. But I think if there's any chance that the Lakers re-sign him, it depends on how well he does in the playoffs. If he can perform in the off season, the Lakers might try and work something out, try and keep hold of him. If not, there's still plenty of teams that could be interested in him. There's a lot of teams interested in him when he got bought by the Cavaliers before he chose the Lakers, and I think some of those teams could go back in for him, like the Charlotte Hornets, Boston Celtics, maybe even go back to the Lakers, who knows. So that's number 9, Andre Drummond. At number 8, we got Lonzo Ball, 23 years old, a young point guard, a restricted free agent, and Lonzo's had a good season this year with the Pelicans, averaging 14.2 points per game, 5.6 assists per game, on 39% shooting from 3, and 8.2 threes a game. So he's shooting plenty of threes, hitting them at a very good level, and when Lonzo's playing well, he's one of the best point guards in the league. Zoe was rumoured to want more, like north of $20 million, so probably the same as Schroder, like $25 million maybe, or a bit less than that. So he want a big contract. Again, the Knicks have been heavily linked with him. I think there's a good chance the Pelicans could try and re-sign him. Depends how much he wants, of course. And also the Bulls have been linked with him as well. I think the Chicago Bulls would be the most interesting one. See him team up with Nikola Vucevic and Zach LaVine. And of course the Knicks with LeVar Ball. That's the perfect situation for him. So have to wait and see where Lonzo goes. I think the Pelicans, won't be easy to keep hold of him, but I think they should if the money is right. At number 7, we got Victor Oladipo, 29 years old now. And Oladipo hasn't looked the same since his injury. I haven't been impressed with him these last few seasons. And he's only played 4 games so far with the Heat. And he's been linked with the Miami Heat for ages. And now that he finally ended up there, people thought that he'd re-sign there. And I think they're still the favourites to re-sign Victor Oladipo because they've wanted him for so long. But you got to take into account his injury record. Just hasn't looked the same since returning from that bad injury a few years ago. I think, but I do think the Heat will keep hold of him. It just depends how much the Heat will pay him, because I don't think he's worth, he's definitely not a max contract. It depends how much they're going to offer him, whether he stays in Miami or goes elsewhere. At number 6, we got Mike Conley, 33 years old now, and after struggling his first year in Utah, this season Mike Conley's been a new player. He's been elite. He's averaged 16.4 points per game, 6 assists per game, on 40.7% shooting from 3. And he became a first-time All-Star this season in Utah. So he's had a great season personally, and so is the Jazz as a team, currently the first seed in the West. So, he's definitely coming off a great season. And as a Laker fan myself, if Dennis Schroder leaves the Lakers, I would like to see Mike Conley. It depends who else is out there, but if Mike Conley's out there, I wouldn't mind seeing Mike Conley join the Lakers, this off-season. Obviously, we don't know how long he's got left, at this level. Father Time might come back anytime and, take away some of his great attributes, but at the moment he's playing very well, and if he leaves Utah and Schroder leaves the Lakers, I wouldn't mind seeing Mike Conley in the purple and gold next season. But I think he will resign in Utah because he's playing great there. The team knows him now, and they traded a good bit for him, so they might want to keep hold of him. At number 5, we got another point guard, Kyle Lowry, 35 years old now, and I was very surprised that Lowry didn't get traded at the trade deadline. He was heavily linked with Philly at the start, then Miami, and at the very end it looked like he was going to the Lakers. Tim Horton Tucker was the sticking point there. But Kyle Lowry, even though the Raptors have struggled, he's had a great season, averaging 17.2 points per game, 7.3 assists per game, on 40% shooting from 3, on 7.2 threes a game. And the rumour is that Lowry wanted a 2-year, $50 million extension to any team he would be traded to. Now obviously he won't be getting traded now, but he will be a free agent, and I think that's the money he'll want. They want around 2 years, $50 million. Will you pay it? I'm sure one team will. The Lakers can't afford him, I don't think. Possible teams really, Toronto, I think he could end his career there if the Raptors want to keep hold of him. Philadelphia, of course, he's from Philadelphia, so maybe he might want to go back there. And maybe the Miami Heat as well, they've been linked to him as well. So it'll be interesting to see where Kyle Lowry ends up. Will he end up staying as a Raptor, or will he move elsewhere and try and contend for a championship? At number 4 now, we got John Collins, only 22 years old. And John was another player who was heavily rumoured to be traded before the deadline. But at the moment, with Nate McMillan as a new head coach, he looks a lot happier in Atlanta. I don't know if him and Trae Young have resolved their differences. If not, if they still don't get along, you've got to trade him. You got to let him go, because Trae Young's the main man there and you don't want to upset him too much. But John Collins personally has had a great season, averaging 17.6 points per game, 7 boards, on 38% shooting from 3 and 1 block. And now they didn't get traded, I think there's a fair chance that the Hawks will sign him, because the Hawks isn't a free agent destination. So I think if him and Trae Young have fixed their thing and they got Nate McMillan, he seems happier in Atlanta right now, maybe he might resign there. If not, the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics will be linked to him. Maybe the Mavericks. I'd like to go to the Mavericks, see what they do there. But interesting to see where John Collins ends up going. And not how much money does he want. Does he want the max or in or around that? At number 3, we got CP3, another 35-year-old point guard. Now Chris Paul is a player option. And I think there's a good chance he ends up taking that player option, which is $44 million, so it's not too bad. But after that player option expires, then he's a free agent again, and he has to find a new contract. So maybe, because he had a great season this year, maybe an MVP level season this year, he might just opt out and go for a pay cut for 1 year, but more long-term security. Maybe go for a 3-year contract and however much money he wants. I see that happening, just depends, because you never know when father time will come. Say Mike Conley, he's doing great this year, he pick up his $44 million contract, then next year he rapidly declines. He looks a shell of his former self, and the Suns or whoever won't offer him anywhere near as much as they might offer him if he opts out and looks for a longer term contract. So if CP3 wants long term security, he might opt out. And also, I said I'd like Mike Conley with the Lakers. I would love CP3 with the Lakers. Him and LeBron finally teaming up. Chris Paul finally coming to the purple and gold after all those years when he's meant to go there. I think that'll be a perfect end to his career. Challenge for a title, even though he will be with the Suns this year. So, if he stays with the Suns, it'll be great. For Phoenix, Devin Booker and those boys are having an unbelievable season. But if he does opt out, I wouldn't mind seeing him in the purple and gold. At number 2, we got DeMar DeRozan. And DeMar DeRozan's had another excellent season. Underrated because he's playing in San Antonio at the moment, and their games aren't on TV all the time, so people aren't seeing how good he's been. And as we all know, if you know DeMar DeRozan in San Antonio, he's become a great passer of the ball, averaging 7.2 assists per game, along with 21 points per game and 50% shooting from the mid-range. Great field goal shooter, probably the best in the league at that, and he's one of the best free agents out there. And I'd like to see DeMar go to a bigger market. I want to see him get his praise, get some more All-Star appearances. I think he should have been an All-Star this year. The Knicks, once again, they're linked with nearly everyone. They won't get everyone, but I think I'd like to see DeMar DeRozan in New York. You don't get too much bigger markets than New York, so maybe he might end up going there. The Lakers, he's a Laker fan, I think, definitely from LA. Maybe he might go there in a sign and trade, who knows? Or maybe go back to Toronto. But I would not be surprised if DeMar DeRozan ended up re-signing in San Antonio. For the reason because he's fitted in well with the Spurs this year. Spurs having a pretty decent season. They got a very good young core, and he's fitted in very well with that young core. So I would not be surprised if DeMar DeRozan ends up signing like a 2-year extension in San Antonio or something, because he's fitted in perfectly there this year, and Gray Popovich getting some great performance out of him. So I'd not be surprised if DeMar DeRozan end up re-signing. Where do you think he could go? There's plenty of teams interested in him. The Knicks definitely top that list. The Raptors maybe might want to go back there. As I said, the Spurs are definitely in the mix. The Celtics have money. Maybe even the Lakers. They got like some sign and trade for Dennis Schroder or something. I don't know. But he's the player I'm most interested in seeing where he ends up. And of course, at number 1, Kawhi Leonard, 29 years old, in his prime. Now he's a player option as well, which is $36 million. And I think he can get more than that anyway. So I think he will opt out. but the question is, will he re-sign with the Clippers or not? And that all depends on how they do in the playoffs. But Kawhi personally this season having a great season, averaging 26.6 points per game, 7 boards, and 4.3 assists per game. And Kawhi leaving the Clippers would really ruin their future. After all, then they're stuck with Paul George, no draft picks, and they'll be a shell of their former selves. But if the Clippers can have a good postseason run, then if they can get to a Western Finals, they'll definitely resign. If they have another embarrassing second round exit or first round exit to a team they shouldn't be losing to, like if they lose to the Lakers first round, fair enough, maybe might resign. But if they get bounced by even the Nuggets now for the second year in a row without Jamal Murray, then I think he might have to pack up and leave. And there's been plenty of teams interested in him if he does go. I'm talking about the Heat. He's been linked to the Heat if he does go. They obviously resign the Clippers, is definitely a possibility. That's probably the most likely possibility. And of course the Knicks, because the Knicks are linked with everyone. Maybe even the Lakers, finally after meant to be signing in 2019, maybe he might go to LA, who knows. But he'd be the most interesting, well not the most interesting one, because I don't think he'll end up leaving the Clippers, but if he does, it'd be very interesting to see where he ends up in. But overall, as I said, even though Giannis and AD and many more are not on the market this year, there's still plenty of good free agents out there. Kawhi Leonard and Chris Paul are the only real game changers. The rest of them are more, good role players, above average role players. If you notice most of their stats, they're all averaging around 16 points per game. So they're not like 25 plus, but they're very good players to have on a team, on a championship team especially. So it'll be interesting to see, and there's plenty of great free agents out there that I didn't even mention on this list. People like Larry Markkinen, Norman Powell, Jared Allen, Spencer Dinwiddie, Kendrick Nunn. There's plenty more out there. So there's plenty of great free agents out there. Be interested to see where they all end up in. DeMar DeRozan is a guy I want to see. I'm most interested in seeing where he ends up. But tell me guys, what player you most interested in seeing, ending up? Me personally, DeMar DeRozan in New York. That's what I want to see. But all I do is wait and see. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. That's the video. Be sure to like the video, subscribe if you're new, and turn on notifications. You'll stay notified when we upload. And with all that said, I'm out of here.